Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. The last Monday before EWC. What's up? So we actually got the bracket today. What we didn't get was RSL replay. That's, I'm sure, soon. Soon they'll do it. I mean, at the very least, I need to see what was going on. Because, believe it or not, I did not wake up at like 4 in the morning to catch it. Shockingly. Okay, cool. Making sure my audio's routed correctly. Seems right. All right. So, no RSL replays. We still had a couple of replays to do from the other packs. But I want to check out the brackets. Red Knight, thank you very much for that Prime sub. Start things off.
Each Prime sub received. Thank you for a piece of the mind.
Okay, this format on the website is not my favorite, so we're definitely just going to use the Liquipedia one. As usual, Liquipedia wins. I think it's this one. Yeah. Dimitri was here, but then I started playing with the Wicket, and he wanted to join. He'll come back. All right, so here's the brackets. Let's bring up Notion. And let's check it out. So we got the play-in stage. Estrella versus Beyond. Lambo versus Hero Marine. Fine. I guess I'll install. I guess it'll be as good as the chat gets. Yeah, the website, I mean, it's light mode, so that's just crazy. That's crazy. But yeah, we've got the plan, and we've got the groups. So obviously Clem gets priority, Cyril gets priority. They were the top 2 last year. But I think I saw someone say that they probably seeded, besides Clem maybe, off of a Lilac. Yeah, Wax is saying that it's matchups line up perfectly by rating. I am casting for EWC, yeah. Yeah, they didn't mention that like 3 of those casters on the announcement are B-stream commentators, which, you know, simplest reason could be that they didn't think anyone would care. Yes, it'll be in person. But yeah, Demo, State, and Fear Dragon are all B-stream commentators, which is really weird. They're flying out the B-stream, and they're not really doing a whole lot, to be honest. Not to disparage them, but just we check the schedule, and it's not a lot of work for the B-stream. And then people, yeah, erroneously believed that this actually meant something, and it doesn't. I think they just gave the title to analysts to like the top 3 commentators. No, but seriously, I'm not sure why they gave us the title of analysts. They probably just had to provide something as analysts, I guess. But yeah, I mean, we're doing the usual thing, which is everyone doing everything. I'm a little sad that Fancy's not doing it. I have not met Sandstorm. But anyways, everyone will be there. Oh, well, one person is not going to be there, actually. And I don't know if they're going to be replaced or they're just going to bump up one of the B-Stream commentators. But that's not for me to announce. We do have our play-in stage, which we'll get started on. Brackets. Yeah, I need, I don't remember how to use Notion. So this is, this is almost entirely just based off the time that I did know how to use Notion. How do I make a... Might just be able to duplicate. Okay, cool. Great. That'll work. Estrella versus Björn. I feel like I had a... I feel like I had a nicer way to organize this. Go away. No, go away, I said. Prostegma. I mean, I guess, yeah, because groups isn't really as useful. She's not playing round robin. Okay, so we'll just do... How do you do all the things I used to know how to do? Son of a gun. There it is. Okay. Underline it. Yeah. Studying! I know, how boring. Estrella versus Björn. Link to that. And then let's say the last 2 years are really what's important. How do I put in dates? Oh, dash, okay. I tried like period, I tried the slash. It's a dash. Okay. Yeah, it's good enough. Son of a beach night? Well, how do you put in dates? Oh, it was year first, that's why. Okay. So yeah, Beyond is favored. I mean, not by an extraordinary amount, but... Are these best of fives? Play in, all matches are best of three. Okay. I don't think there's any better offline. Nope. Okay, well. Doesn't bode super well. You're betting all your savings on Beyond. That sounds wise. Oh, son of a gun. That was offline. I'm always putting the loser first. I don't mean to. And now we'll do offline in the last 2 years. Okay, that's interesting. Which Lambo? Predicting. So Beyond, it should be Beyond Rose here, Marin. With these stats. If I could... Wow, they perfectly tied in the last 2 years. 2 years. All format. All on offline. All events. Okay. That's fun. Isn't that fun? Yeah. Yeah, bracket is out. Either it just came out today, or someone actually bothered checking the official website today. It's hard to say which one of it is. And then if we talk about a losers match, Stray and Lambo do not play very often. Oh, it was offline. Okay. Call this upper as well. Yeah, TVT is very rare now. Estrella does not have a good chance, unfortunately. I'm like obsessively control S'ing because I've been writing in WordPad. In Notion, you don't have to save. It just always saves. It's gonna be a tough habit to break. And then, I mean, I think that's as far as we should really predict. Obviously, that would be the semis. And then, theoretically, either one could win or lose, and then whoever loses goes on face Lambo. And that's as much as we'll do. For that, Group A. Clem versus Winner. Which could be anyone. Could be anyone. The bias showed. I don't know. He probably faces the lower bracket qualifying match winner. That would make the most sense if he's seeded first. Although you'd think he, like, even though the rest of them are seeded by a Legiolac, you'd think he was just seeded first because he won. But I don't know. I don't know. Lower bracket qualifier? We're gonna put you smaller. But Solar versus down. There we go. That we can talk about. Wow, they're very close, actually. So that could go either way. Let's look at each individual's matchup. 40-40. Yeah, as soon as you make it into the actual World Cup, you get like X amount of extra money though, so. Alright, you get like 1,000. Sorry, you get like $10,000 more for making it into the actual tournament. That's quite a bit. Let's check out their versus Protoss. Oh, I always forget what form actually is though. Oh, I have to get rid of all these. Okay. Go away. It's actually on the rise recently. Yeah, get rid of games actually. So is Zounds, though. No, I know what form is as far as the definition. I mean, what constitutes as recent? You know, is it last 6 months? Is it last 12 months? Is it last 2 months? And again, we'll just do the last 2 years. And opponent race. Should probably just do this for everyone. If I do it for all of them. Yeah, we'll just do it this way. Should I screen cap it? Would be easier, faster. I suppose I could copy paste. What happens if I do that? Oh my god, it makes it a table. Freaking amazing. I wish it made it a smaller table, though. I'm going to use 2 years or 1 year? I think for win rate, I'll just use 1 year. I mean, using 2 years for, like, their actual head-to-head is, I think, kind of required just because they don't... A lot of these guys don't face each other that often. Probably for their recent ring weight. What? Oh, I didn't get that. That bothers me. Fix it. gonna go ahead and just make a template. I don't know how many I need. That seems right. Silver sound. Hello. All right. There's Rainer. That sucks. I hope that gets better. Oh, well, that's interesting. They never played offline. I was like, they definitely played. Like, just calm down. And A, they never did. How about that? And to avoid each other. I'm excited to see all my friends again. I don't know if we're gonna get emotional at the end of the tournament. Suppose it'll depend on if we hear any rumors. Uh-oh. Did I do that wrong? Oh, no I didn't actually. Yep. I mean, I'm just anticipating nothing. But then someone's gonna drop something, probably. And Trigger versus Maru. Ooh, that'll be tough. Whoa. Maros versus Zerg. It's not good in the last year. Like, clearly didn't need that many. Just one. Just one for the template. On this case, Cyril. Hero versus Lancer. I feel like I could skip this one. I have played. Oops. Yeah, Hero might be a little favored in that one. Cure versus Showtime. It's a little more interesting. Oh my god, what did I do? How about that? Showtime 1, 2. Dreamhack Dallas. Well, thanks, Puppered Up. But it, you know, it's more a matter of having any more big stages. Cure Here's versus Protoss has gone down, I think, quite a bit. Peaked just before 2024. Showtimes actually has not improved that much, but it's steady. Yeah, classic. Not as good at that. Not like the old days. Classic versus Rogue. All of them only ever played one. One offline. Factor in which players seem to be stronger at match-specific prep. How would you figure that one out? Roddy CZ typing prep, I'm getting banned? Why? What did you do? Whoa. Rogue ZVZ. Alright, that's the brackets done. And I guess now it's a question of who do I think is going to advance? Oh, you know, they're good. Well, I mean, I kind of, I gotta figure that the plan stage will go according to the data. So, I think Bjorn will advance with Hero Marine. And then if my guess is correct, I think it would be Clem versus Hero Marine. Which Clem would play Protoss, and then I guess he wins anyway. And then Cyril would face Bjorn, which would be interesting, but Cyril wins that one. Solar Zound clearly can go either way. I feel like Zound might have a little bit of the advantage there. I'm gonna BRB. Then I'll think on it more. Okay. You get vibes. Vibes. Well, you'd have to check how often their victories against their opponent came with a prepared setup, which isn't impossible to figure out, but would be difficult, just take a lot of time. What if you think of, yeah, Lambo as being someone who's very prep-based? Okay, that's not what I meant to do. You know, you could look at this and say which one of these was the knowledge was there before they actually played. In a qualifier, probably not. I don't think that would have been something they could prepare in advance. Upper bracket on a 16. I mean, it actually could have been. Actually, this was. And, yeah, Lambo still lost. Do the specific map pools not matter? What do you mean? I would say that the maps certainly matter. They should, you know, try and get the vetoes that they want. But in a best of 3, that'd be difficult to do. I mean, just because... That sounds the opposite of what should be, but like just because the other person can veto too as well. So we didn't win that one. These are all online cups. Semifinals, I don't think would have been preparation for Home Story Cup. This you would have had to prepare for everyone. Same with the group. I mean, you just don't get a lot of preparation, I guess. But the one that I could find without doing all of the research is that it doesn't give Lambo quite enough of an edge. Yeah, Clem wins, then I'm gonna say Sound wins, but I don't know. Either one. Then I think Clem wins that one too. I think Clem's pretty locked into that qualification spot, Group A. Shin vs. Rainer would be difficult to call. Shin does have a winning record versus Rainer. They never face offline. And their versus Zergs are about the same. Although Shin does get to play it more. And are these best of 3s too? Yeah. Best of 3 and a best of 5. I guess Shin takes that one. And then Trigger Maru. I mean, I do have to give it to Maru. Yeah. Maru's not looking as good as he once did, but still pretty good. So then Maru versus Shin. I mean, that seems like he's something that Shin just can never beat. So I guess Maru also gets out. Yeah, Maru and Clem top half. And then... I don't know. Out of all the ones who lost. Here, Marine. Solar, Zown. Trigger. Rainer. And Shin. Well, that clearly goes down to there. So let's see. I don't know. I can't think that far ahead. All right, Hero wins. Cure Showtime, I think. I think Showtime wins, actually, but I don't know. His versus Terran is looking better than Cure's statistically. And it's a very difficult matchup right now for Terrans. But Showtime does have a little bit of a problem with Korean Terrans and defeating them when he needs to the most. So, I don't know. He is sleeping on the job. Scratterboon, that seems like an awfully antagonistic question. So maybe I shouldn't designate it with a response. Designate. But, I mean, what would you mean? Is this some type of question of, like, if we weren't paid to do this, would we do it? Yeah, warrant. Thank you. I don't know why designate came into my mind. What's this? What is this? 5 years ago? Oh my god. Well, this is very clearly StarCraft 1, so I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of a ridiculous question, because if you asked any of us to fly over to Saudi Arabia to cast StarCraft 2 for the World Championships and we weren't paid, were you then say that everyone who didn't go didn't love StarCraft? I'll put it this way. There's fair enough criticism for like how much people are putting into StarCraft and how many opportunities they're getting. But that is a particularly stupid way of asking or pointing out any problems you have with it. Always talk about StarCraft 2. It is still 5 years ago, though. Saturday. It's a pretty long trip for me. Me and Fear Dragon. Song I'm listening to, I listened to back when I first played StarCraft 2, really. All the way back in like 2011. Crazy. How time flies. So Hero wins, and then I guess I actually will give it to Cure, but I think Cure gets destroyed by Hero, so Hero qualifies. Hero Showtime might be a little more interesting, but again, I feel like Hero is just more dependable. Fear Dragon is going, yes. Classic Rogue. They're very tightly matched. I guess I give it a classic again. So classic versus Cyril. And I think Cyril wins. Hope there's some prep. Last year's finals cast were my favorite one. I would not expect anything different if I were you. As far as who's casting them and what type of cast is going to be. Yeah, well, it's 10 hours to Germany from, you know, kind of like basically the West Coast. And then another 5 to 6 to Saudi. The Clem finals. I mean, I don't really have a strong opinion on who I think is going to win this time around. Last year, it was Cyril 100%. But now, there's no one who's as dominant, and there's not been as many tournaments to really test that anyway. So I feel like it's a pretty good time to have like a surprise tournament, I guess, because obviously the favorites are going to be like Clem and Cyril and Maru, just because he's Maru, but I really don't think he is a favorite in this tournament. And then maybe Classic and Hero. And I feel like those are the people who are often going to be said are going to win. But I don't know, man. I mean, Rainer's looking in really good form. Shin always causes upsets. Rogue can also do the thing. He hasn't done it in a while. He hasn't done it since he come back from the military to just like win a tournament, but he probably could. Solar's obviously very stable. And then, I mean, technically someone from the play-in stage, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's what I would say. It's like, I think there's 4 favorites, and then, like, 3 or 4, like, it would be kind of surprising if they won the entire thing, but they could probably do it. And then there's, yeah, however many are left. There's 10 players who I don't think would ever win it. Which might sound cruel, but, you know, It's like the 10 players that I'm thinking of haven't really won anything in particular. It's very, like, incredibly impressive. I'm not sure Shin would be so hype. And I'm not saying that as a designated Shin hater. I mean, I think that Shin is one of the least talked about winners, aside from the idea that he wins against people that people wish had won instead, you know. I don't think he quite has the title of like hype killer, because no one really has that, I guess, but I feel like he'd be the closest to it, actually. I mean, Solar's very well Drew McDallas. I don't know, does Solar get smacked by Terrans? No, I don't think so. Well, people usually like the underdog story. It's just that I think Shin's also kind of come in as like not that much of an underdog either. It's like he has made it to round of 4s often enough. I don't know. I mean, I could be projecting, but that's the feeling I get from the general community sentiment as well. You know, when he does win. I mean, I think he's gotten cooler victories lately. You know, I think the Clem series really gave him a lot of credit. So if he were to win, you know, versus Clem in the finals, or versus Maru maybe in the finals, which I think would be borderline impossible, but would be a really nice way for him to tie up his career. Getting smacked by Maru every which way and then winning against him in the EWC finals. I mean, that could be pretty sick. You know, I think there's also still a little bit of stigma against, you know, the Korean players and their lack of excitement when they do win. But I could see Shin crying, actually. People would like that. Get that camera up nice and close. Just stay on his face forever. That's how you do it. That's how you do it in broadcast. Yeah. And then if I were to throw it out someone, you know what? I'm just going to choose someone to win. I think Hero is going to win the entire thing. There you go. Hero wins the last Premier StarCraft 2 tournament and cements Protoss as the overpowered race. Oh, look at that. Who wins? How does this make sense? Maru, statistics don't lie. Lost GSL Season 1, but won DreamHack. Lost GSL Season 2, and now will win EWC. I don't think you call that statistics. That's a very small pattern. That is a seamstress, you know, newbie seamstress first making like a square. All right, they're like learning how to crochet or a knit or whatever they want to do, but and they're like, I made a pattern. You're like, you technically did. Now, if you want to make like a blanket, you're like, it's but I mean, if it happens that way, I'm gonna steal it. It's not even a pattern yet, actually. It's actually not even a pattern. He lost one lost. Like, a pattern is when two, like, at least it has happened twice, and it hasn't even happened twice. He's assuming it'll happen twice. I like it, though. I mean, as far as the meme takes, I do like it. Stupid-tistics. Every other window release is bad is at least, like, you know, 2 decades, I guess, of pattern recognition, but... Okay. I guess that's all I'll do for the matchups. You could do some predicting, but I don't know if that's really fun. Cure showtime. And then, assuming that I was correct again, it'll be Beyond, I think. Oh, this is like GSL? Oh, they don't have a double elimination bracket. Okay. Give me a single elimination bracket. All right, Serral has by far the biggest chance of advancing. And then Hero and then Classic, which is actually what I predicted. I said hey, Sarah and Hero were going to get out, actually, to be fair. But I feel like Classic would take the lower bracket. And then, actually, I feel like Showtime does not have the best chance. Although, statistically, apparently he does. But I would actually give Cure beyond Rogue. Like, Rogue is weirdly low, right? The good news is he has a 72% chance to make top 8 in an 8-player bracket. But no, seriously, this seems really low. I wonder why. Oh, I guess I put them in order accidentally, so we actually are getting, like, kind of decent prediction ordering. And then Hero beats Showtime. Because Showtime is, I mean, as I said, like, statistically, he's favored versus Cure. I'm afraid he's gonna choke a little bit. But okay, alright. And then Hero beats Showtime, yeah. And then Cyril beats Classic, yeah. Yeah. And then, it didn't have a lower bracket, so... But I guess that's why they have such a low chance, is because they're not taking into account a lower bracket. So you know. Some math would change. But I feel like Showtime actually should be not down there at Lancer, unfortunately. Lancer, yeah, sorry buddy. But I think depending on the bracket plays out, maybe Rogue or Beyond, I would suspect, actually. I could see Beyond beating Cure CVT, actually. I mean, that'd be tough, but it could happen. I do see these Korean Terrans beating Showtime offline in a big tournament. And I do see Rogue even upsetting maybe one of these guys in the top half. Yeah, I would say Cyril, Hero, Classic, and then I'm choosing Rogue. I'm choosing Rogue. For the 4 to advance. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, I miss Dark. It does seem to be less and less of a problem for Protoss, though, Trizati. I mean, it's still worth mentioning, but... That would be most useful for his... I mean, Classic Rogue, like, they know each other anyway. But if for Cyril, it would be very difficult to predict, first of all, who he faces from the play-ins. And then second of all, who would win between Classic and Rogue. So, like, what would he be practicing the most of and studying the most of? I'm sure he's studying everyone. Especially since he spends so much of his time studying instead of just hardcore practicing. Okay, well, you know, can't be perfect. It looks like it can't be perfect, but, it, you know, still something interesting out of that one. Let's try it again for the other group. It is Clem, possibly Hero Marine, and then Solar Sound. Whoops. Whoops. Shin Rainer. Sure. Maru. Alright, so Clem has the best chance of winning. That makes sense. Maru does still have the second best chance of winning. What did I say? Yeah, I actually agree with that, but maybe not the same way that they got to the conclusion. I think Maru beats Trigger. Oh, they gave Trigger a map win, actually. Oh, and they did have Rainer beating Shin. But Maru still beats Rainer. See, that's where I'm not sure. Like, I'm fairly certain that Maru beats Shin, because he always does. Hold on. Has that changed? How much has that changed? Zoinks! Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. It hasn't changed. Wait, where is the one match that he won? It's a tie, isn't it? Ah, it was a best of one. That's what it was. So yeah, Shin's never won. Still, that's accurate to this day. He has never won a match against Maru. And he's only won 15% of the games they've played. Like, that is so insanely imbalanced. But it has been a year. Is the good news. So anyways, yeah, Maru definitely beat Shin. But then Maru Rainer. He does win often against Rainer, but they also haven't played in a while. The most recent time they played was in GSL, and Rainer did win. And Maru really seems like he's falling off more and more, probably because of his injury. So I don't know about that. Okay. Alright. And then I guess, yeah, for Shin Rainer, I do think Shin wins. Why did Ligulac give it to Rainer? Shin has a better win record against him. And slightly worse ZVZ technically, but he also played twice as many ZVZs. So I don't know about this one. I think Ligulac's wrong. I think the robots are wrong. So ignore that. That, yes. That, sure. This, sure, yeah. But that, I think, goes the opposite way. And then Maru faces Shin. And then I think Maru absolutely advances. If Maru faces Rainer, I'm actually not sure that Maru does advance. First or second or whatever. Top 2 qualification. Yeah. But he might qualify through the bottom. Anyway, so Clem Maru is what I predicted, but then who's the other two that make it through? And then Shin might have to face Maru in the lower bracket too. Again, if you think Rainer would win against Shin and then win against Maru, then Maru would face Shin in the lower bracket perhaps. So that drastically decreases Shin's chance of actually advancing if he loses that ZDZ. I feel like I'm looking into the future right now. And in that case, I think, Maru would make it through the lower bracket. And then Solar. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Solar's down. But yeah, I don't know if I have a lot of faith in Hero Marine and Trigger. Yeah. And if this was all true, we can go one step further. If we go by our guesses, and it's Clem. Is there an easier way to get that? I guess, okay. And I guess Solar, but could be Zaun. Let's just put Solar in. Rainer. And Maru. And then Hero. Classic. Rogue. Cyril. What would that be? This would actually be single elimination. With a third place match. Ain't no one care about third place matches. What is this? What is this?
Apparently you are doing something.
Oh, they're gonna do it before the finals. Oh no! Wait, what? No, don't do that. 2 semifinals into a best of 9 grand finals is plenty of series. That's plenty of time. You do not need a third place match. Ugh. I hope they're not actually doing a third place match. Foxor, thank you for the 36 months. That is the only case for a third place match is buying viewership time for the finals. But if you're gonna do semifinals and finals on the same day, I don't like the third place match. I mean, you still want to give them time to prepare, but I feel like third place match is always so anti-hype. Anyway. Last time they had us do that free-for-all, which people seem to like. Oh yeah, I guess I could see if it is gonna exist. It is gonna exist for sure because there is a difference in prize pool. I'm looking forward to the honor of casting the 3rd and 4th place match because Tastosis will definitely get the finals. The match that I think is pretty useless. Oh, glad you enjoy them, Trizatti. Should have more uploading after I get back. Cast like the finals. Do a better job than the finals cast. Alright, so this is saying that if that is the round of 8, that Rogue still has, I think, like, a ridiculously low chance to win. Well, I guess win is different, but he still has... Wait, how does this make sense? Interesting. I feel like they're putting Rogue too low, but I guess, you know, someone has to be last. And I feel like Morrow is too high, actually, with his recent play. Also, I'm not sure about Clem beating Cyril, so let's see what they predicted, because obviously we don't know what the bracket's going to look like. Okay. Ah, but he would play Protoss, stupid Aligalac. Idiot. And then, yeah, they're also all best of 3s, which... I mean, if I put in best of 5 and best of 9, actually, Cyril would have the strongest chance to win. I think his numbers grew. They should. Yeah, his number keeps growing. It keeps growing! Just kept on growing the longer the series are. Even though the results stayed pretty much the same. Cyril just gets better the longer the series go on. Usually. Oh, check this out, though. Clem 4-5, Cyril. That would be quite the twist. That would be quite the grand finals. This would be sick if this actually happened. But I don't think it will. I shouldn't say that. I mean, I think it actually is very possible that Clem Cyril are in the finals. I just don't think it'll be this really close 4-5 match. I've set myself up for disappointment. Cyril might win, but it'll be another, you know, 5-0 or something. And you're just like, ah, oh, womp womp. You think if it went to the last map, Clem would win it? Well, map statistic-wise, I think you're right, actually. Once again, this is not a map pool that really favors Zerg. I don't think it's as bad as the last map pool, but I didn't compare, so I don't know. But I saw a lot of low numbers on these maps versus Zerg. Yeah, if Mario gets to the finals, it's just like even more disappointing than usual. TVZ, Zerg, Terran. Wow, look at this. Okay, I might be wrong. This might be even more biased towards Terran players. Look at these stats. Now, these are the Wikipedia stats, and they draw from like a wide range of players, but that is strongly in favor of Terran. The finals are a best of 9. Just like last year. But there's only one map that they technically win. Only by 2%. And then there's 5 maps where Terran has a 7% plus win record. That's... That's kind of crazy. PVT is even more balanced. Once again, Sarah will be going up against a pretty ridiculous map pool. I do have the stats from the last one. So in TVZ, there was 1, 2. There was only 2 going into the tournament. 2 maps that had a 7% plus advantage to Terran. So leading up the EWC, this is the most Terran bias versus Zerg map pool we've had. That's going to be difficult. When is EWC? It is next Tuesday to Friday, I believe. Yes, that makes sense. Which I know is odd, but that is correct. It is during the weekdays. Yeah. I think someone asked Apollo at Claris's wedding, and there's not much he could say. He was just like, yeah, just with the scheduling of everything, there's not much we can do. All StarCraft 2 commentators cast every day. But, as I was saying earlier, just for anyone who hadn't heard it, there are B-stream commentators. They didn't distinguish them on the talent announcement, but B-stream commentators will not cast every single day. They'll only cast 2 days, I think. Which is kind of weird. But yeah, State, Fear Dragon, and Demu are only going to cast like Tuesday and Wednesday. So yeah. But one of them might get bumped up. We'll find out. There'll be an announcement. How late? It depends what time zone you're in, isn't it? I think we start... We never really started all that early. I mean, for Mountain Time, the game starts at 9 a.m. That's 8 a.m. Pacific. They're probably going to do loser interviews again. I would expect it. Much prefer them making Cassie do 1 or 2 massive days. Yeah, I don't think that happens too often in offline tournaments, though. I mean, we get treated that way in online tournaments all the time. If that's what you're referring to. But offline tournaments have usually been pretty good. Well, they were terrible because, like, there's no comparison to the fact that we don't know what happens every year in StarCraft 2. And some might say, like, well, other esports have the case that happens too, but, like, I don't think to the same degree. If there is an esport who doesn't know what, like, the next big tournament is, they probably didn't have the same ecosystem as StarCraft has had over the last 15 years. Like, it's just, there's nothing comparable to it. There's nothing the size that StarCraft 2 was that is now, fading. So I thought that's why they were particularly bad. Almost every other esport at least gets the chance to be like, well, we'll see you next time. I hope you do great, blah, blah, blah. Or Cats had to be like, yeah, that does suck. Anyway, back to you. But I think they'll do the same thing again. And people will just have to, I guess, look at it as the last one. Rather than at least uncertainty. Hour 10 of a cast is an interesting energy. know, right? Bocasters, why aren't you hype? When did that happen? When did what happen? Sorry. Did losers interviews? Last year at EWC. No, Nish, because I don't want to spend all that money. If I start, I won't stop. Only loser interviews? Well, I definitely don't agree with that. A loser interview gets emotional, but that's like, there's no future building. Where it's very easy to get at least one soundbite from a winner's interview about the next match. You know, well, your next opponent's going to be Rogue. How do you feel about that? Honestly, he's been beating me a lot, and I'm not really confident, but I'll try to show good games. Not the most interesting thing in the world, is it? But it is still something. And you're like, oh, okay, he also thinks he has a really good chance against Rogue. Yeah, no, I don't have that. I don't have that money. I really do want some of them, though. Some of them have really cool artwork of, like, some of my favorite games, favorite moments. But that's, you know, that's life. I mean, there's a lot of losers interviews that are very emotional in all esports, but that is the purpose of them, to be totally clear. Just, I do think StarCraft's a little different in that it's really the end, where like a CS:GO losers interview, like people will cry and they'll say like, we really tried hard and we wanted to prove all the haters wrong, and I missed my child's birth to win this and it didn't work out. But the next tournament literally starts in like a week. And maybe it's only like the qualifiers for the next tournament or only the regionals for the next tournament, but it does. I don't think it kills the vibe because we almost always go directly to like break after. I do think they should be optional, but then people would easily argue you'd only ever get the boring interviews that way. What I mean studying? I've done it a couple of times if you want to see an example, but I get everything that I need for about the tournament, and then I look into the matchups that are provided off the bracket that we're given, and their win rates, and any storylines that might be building, and statistics. And then I usually replay casts to practice. I missed the birth of my child to be proxy roboed twice. I kind of want that to happen now. I mean, that'd be bad. Did you see Pig's tier list? I did not. This is, you know, I almost don't want. I'm curious about it because I think Pig's very smart. I'd like to hear his thoughts. But, you know, I feel like Pig has been like a weird type of punching bag lately. I guess that's what happens when you are one of the content creators in the scene. You're very popular. But I don't know. It feels like there's been a lot of toxicity thrown Pig's way in the last couple of months. Like, for instance, he made the balance suggestion, and it was an hour long. But that meant that he explained his reasoning, and he, like, you know, tried to be level-headed and had an overarching goal and stuff like that. And then Hero Marine kind of does like a dick move and kind of acts like a dick while watching Pig's balance video. And then, you know, he was kind of dickish at times. And then, of course, people who favor a pro gamer's opinion over a mere content creator take that as an excuse to be a dick to Pig too. And it's just like, why? How do you feel actually can be used quite wisely, I think, actually. You know, I don't think it's something you do to someone who looks totally fine. Because they're just going to be like, oh, yeah, you know, it sucked, but okay, whatever. But if someone's, like, on the verge of crying, usually asking, like, how you feel can just be a way for them to contemplate their emotions. Ask Pig, how does he feel? Yeah. Anyway, so I didn't really like that. I didn't think that was particularly cool. I was glad to see some people defending Pig, whatever it was, the Hero Marine video or his Balance Council video, or I think he did another one. But yeah, I almost feel bad doing it. I was going to do something. Oh, I think I remember now. Nope. Yeah. No. Yes. Yes. Yes! This is the last time StarCraft 2 champion cried on stage. Did you miss Oliveira winning IEM Katowice? So 2 years ago. But yeah, wait, do you think Pig explained himself well or Hero Marine? Because yeah, I think Pig always does. Pig's titles and thumbnails might be a little clickbaity, but his video content actually almost is never. As far as I know. I was going to think up more storylines now that we know the brackets. Okay. There's never been a 400 semifinals. Korean still haven't won a global championship. I don't know where the hate comes from, honestly. I mean, I know where it comes from. I just think it's stupid. It's people... I mean, sometimes you do it for comedic effect. There is that. Like some other content creators who are reacting, you know? Like if Harrison reacted to Pig's balance and he saw something he thought was not good and he ranted about it, it's probably just for the content. But as far as people who legitimately seem to have a stick up their ass, I think it just is... Everyone has such strong opinions about the balance and design. And so it's like whenever someone has something different, they're like personally offended. I don't know. Dude, this... You know, I always talk about there's one guy that he posts a ton, okay? First of all, this is the reason I notice him so much, all right, in my defense. There's one account who I think is an idiot. Sometimes has okay takes, but overall I think is an idiot. And this guy posted in that, and he was like, people were like, you know, the developers needed to actually balance, because you need to have like a clear goal, you know? Ideally, you'll have someone who has game design experience, who watches a lot of StarCraft 2 pro games and plays all 3 races at a high level. And there's this guy who's like, I do all of that. I would be great for it. And it's just like, oh, I still think you're an idiot. Well, yeah, you're better off not reading Reddit, because I do think it is a Reddit thing, as far as I understand. But I also think it's because so much of the community is divided amongst content creators. Like, I feel like it's really decentralized. As far as where people can go to talk about something when they first get into it is, I think, a problem. But then second of all, I feel like that really, like, it pushes people to the extremes as well, as far as, like, who they favor, you know? I feel like 10 years ago, it wasn't so much the content creation as to what got people talking about talent announcements and who got what. there's a little bit of it, obviously, but it just feels like now it's like whoever is like the biggest YouTuber is obviously going to get a lot more credit. And I felt this actually personally when one of my videos went viral. One video went viral, and it felt like for a year after that, I had way more people bothering to comment in favor of me. Because a lot of people don't bother to comment one way or another, right? But I definitely felt a difference. Theory that feels gonna drop the early access tag for Storm. Isn't that only for the campaign? Hey. Oh, it's going all right. Pro players involved in balancing? Yes, I think they should be involved. I don't think they should be allowed to run amok in a playground like a bunch of daycare toddlers, where the teacher or whatever you call a daycare person is like playing on their phone the entire time. And that's, you know, that's what I'm gonna relate to the balance council as from here on out. It's like toddlers at recess, a daycare. Okay, well, yeah. Oh yeah, where did they announce that? Do you have a link? I'm asking programs not to act like gamers. Not really, no. I'm actually asking for there to be just a government body. You know? Yeah, there's got to be some type of procedure and order and person in charge who can make sure that things are equal amongst everyone participating. And I don't think that's happening right now. Thank you. Oh, 3 hours ago. Ah, you're right. Okay. This is news. I'll talk about it in a second. It's very communist of you. Sure. But this is what happens when you watch a group of people. I say toddlers, and that's a little, you know, that's a little mean. But when you watch a group of people have a group discussion, what ends up happening, right, is that it's not the clearest, most logical voice of reason that comes out ahead 9 times out of 10, right? Not unless you're in 12 Angry Men, which is, you know, not even representative of a jury anyway. You have one person who talks the most and talks the loudest and maybe even the most passionately. And then they usually end up... And then, you know, the person who tried to be logical and reasonable got talked over too many times. They're like, well, I'm just not going to talk anymore. Like, what the fuck's the point? Like, that's what I think is ultimately the problem. I think, you know, game designers and hardcore fans, actually, even, and pro gamers should be included in discussions. I should be the overlord. I'll rule with an iron fist. I could have, because I definitely heard the campaign was not going to be early access anymore. And then I was reading all of the discussion about that. Yeah, because this is what I was reading 2 days ago. I don't understand what campaign will no longer be in early access means. So I didn't, them changing it to the entire game is news to me. Is anyone getting paid? No, and that is another problem. Well, particularly there's no one paid to be the nanny. I'm gonna BRB again, and we'll talk about Stormgate. What are my thoughts on Pigs and Hearthstone's balance changes? I did not watch or read. I have very little passion for these discussions because they're all hypothetical. I mean, they're great content creation because people are very interested in it. Most people are. I am not. I'll happily discuss actual balance change, but yeah, I know. Yeah, I think it's always going to be a problem for them, Digletto. Like, this was going to be a problem as soon as they released anything. All right, so apparently Gerald, whatever, is actually the end of early access. Stormgate Campaign 1 Ashes of Earth will be complete by update 0.6. So the Campaign 1v modes be at level where we're ready to share them. So we're dropping the early access. Okay. Stormgate is more than just campaign 1v1. It's co-op. Team Mayhem. Blah, blah, blah. Ambitious plans. We created Ligma. The Stormgate client to contain our work in progress modes and features. Whether you were right, and plenty of games have launched 1.0, which is campaign. But calling the Stormgate 1.0 for marketing purposes doesn't reflect our actual state of development. Am I dumb? I would have always expected anything that had a 0 point in front of it to mean it's early access. If you can play it, obviously. Like, am I... What? Anyone who's been paying attention to the money issues knows that, in my opinion, you should have known that they were always going to release something as 1.0, but it didn't necessarily mean it was something drastically different or actually what we would call like a real polished full game. Because if you have been paying attention, you know that their money is running out. So that was always expected. That was always expected for me, is that they're going to... But I thought what they were going to do, I thought they were going to say, like, 1.0 is here. We skipped past 7, 8, 9. Yeah! But that's not even what they're doing. They're doing something that's even weirder and thus even more foul-tasting, I think, to the general community. The whole 1.0 is just because they have to release it for, like, the loans they've gotten and whatever issue. Like, that was already going to be kind of like, all right, well, this kind of, you know... But to do some type of, like, in-between just feels like it's going to anger even more people. Why would they do that? I don't get it. Yeah, that's what I feel like. That's why I feel like it's actually, it's scummier, is what you're saying, Mike. I think it's scummy. Because that's the only reason I could think of them doing that. Is that they want to release, they want people to stop, the people who are like, I don't buy early access games, are going to say, oh, it's complete, I'm going to buy it. And when they buy it and see that these, like, all of these things are still in development and they go and find this clarification, they're going to feel, you know, I still want to use that word. They're going to feel bad. They're going to be like, well, that's fucked up. Like, this is, sometimes Stormgate has had a lot of controversies over the years, actually. Even before, like, its release last year, I feel like there was controversies before that, too. And nothing was, like, truly game-breaking, you know. A lot of things could be excused with, like, stress and human mistakes and whatever, but every time it happens, I feel like it is so much harder to defend them as being ultimately like good people who are trying their best. Like, I know a lot of the people, and I do believe a lot of them are good. I also believe that there are people making decisions who may not be deserving of such credit. You have a coworker who's invested in this game? No way. Yeah, that's this is silly. Won't this send out a Steam notification so tens of thousands of followers wishlisters telling them the game is out of early access? Seems like it's just inviting a newer, bigger round of disappointment. I think the game isn't ready for more people. Definitely agree. Well, it would be a really solid StarCraft 2 level campaign since they're calling it finished. Do people think that they're going to have like a second revamped campaign? This is also something I've noticed in the Stormgate subreddit, which is people are like, you know, 1.0 will hit and they'll have an even better campaign. And it's like, I don't think they're changing the campaign. Their new missions might be good, who knows? But I don't think they're redoing it again. The balance is also quite poor. Infernals are apparently very, very strong. Use the cope of Stormgate Reddit to create energy. We'd have our own arc reactor. They're out of money. Yeah. That was always that was known. This is not insider information. Did I enjoy the Stormgate campaign? The first one was actually the worst thing I've ever played. One of the worst things I've ever played. The second one, like the revamped one, was probably the most forgettable campaign I've ever played. So, no, would be the answer. It did technically make it further than Battle Aces, which still boggles my mind. There's 77,000 players that follow Stormgate on Steam, receiving an email from Steam. Have any of you actually ever paid attention? I mean, I'm sure people have. I shouldn't say that. But I feel like I have wishlisted so many things on Steam. And I might have even followed a couple things on Steam. And not once have I ever cared about any announcements on it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. What happens is I wish list something, and then a year later it actually releases and it gets like whatever reviews it does, and I accidentally stumble on it again, not because I was looking through my wish list. Only sometimes does that happen. And you know, a lot of Steam wish lists like that is actually good. That was important part of their development, but I think they're underestimating how many people clicked those buttons because they were excited and then just forgot to unclick them. Right? Anyway. Yeah, all I think it does is mislead them again. Like, I don't, you know, like, if the public basically knew that they were running out of money, then they must have known they're running out of money. And they could have done, again, a half-ass job, because at the end of the day, like, so much of this was just mishandled. But they could have pushed out one update that called 0.6, one update that called 0.7, one update that called 0.8, one update called 0.9. And it was actually going to be one update, but they just, you know, just split them up. And then they could at least say, like, officially it's 1.0. Like, this whole, like, in-between thing is such a weird choice. Such a weird choice. Like, they're really, like, heavily advertising 0.6 patch as well, because it did have a lot of new things in it. And at no point did they take that time to be like, also, it's when we're going to stop being early access. Like, oh, this is, again, just, like, destroys any goodwill. I mean, I give a lot of leeway to other content creators, because first of all, I think some of them were genuine. I don't know exactly who I'm talking about, but I think some of them were genuine. Like, there are a lot of people who still play Stormgate, guys. Sorry, I shouldn't say a lot of people. There are people who play Stormgate and they enjoy it, guys. So, like, there are people that exist to do that. Some of them are content creators. I also think a lot of the hype was based off of, one, future Blizzard-style RTS. 2, blind optimism. And 3, blind trust. And I think that's where I think a lot of content creators actually fell into, which is that they probably did see stuff that they were like, this isn't my favorite, like, I'm not that interested, but this is only what they've shown so far. There must be a lot of other things that I'm missing out on. And honestly, I feel like there's not really been any content creators who have hyped it up in basically a year. Well, Neuro is kind of a good example of what I'm talking about, actually, because Neuro sounded like he was paid $1,000 to be the worst shield that ever lived. I'm sorry, Neuro, but it's true. Because that was one heck of a piece. Even if it ended up being the greatest game in the world. Even if he had written the exact same thing for Exhibition 33, everyone would still be like, you know? But he wasn't. He wasn't. That is actually just how Neuro is. So that's kind of what I meant earlier on. Like, this is just actually how some people are. Well, that's even inaccurate, right, Madison 1? Because it's like, so many of these people weren't even really doing the jobs that we hoped that they would be doing. Like, the Tims, one of them, I forget which one. You know, someone was like, well, they did the Warcraft 3 campaign. So there's going to be, someone brought up an old topic from like 2 years ago. And they're like, oh, well, he literally made the Warcraft 3 campaign. So, like, this will probably be very good. And then someone else corrected him and was like, he didn't make it, he managed it. Which means that he had a lot of other people working under him that might have had really great ideas. And it's like, that's true. That's Zero for you? Yeah, he is that way. I talked about this before, but like when I first saw Neuro or heard about him or whatever, I was like, I don't know, this guy seems kind of fake. Because all I saw was like the internet. And I met him in real life, and I'm like, he actually is the nicest guy. Oh my god. Band like 20 years ago make a new album with their third lineup after replace the original members. Yeah, I guess that is kind of what it's like. Band of Theseus. RTS developers of Theseus. Normal games and not leave early access on version 0.6. Yeah, I mean, that's the basics of it, isn't it? Well said, Apple Cup 9024. Arthesius kind of works. Yeah, and this is then officially the release. So, you know, someone was saying it earlier, but this is the most unhyped thing I've ever seen. They actually were building up a decent amount of hype when they were building up the expectations for 0.6. And instead of using that again as an opportunity to be like, also, by the way, it's going to end early access with this. They're like, hey, like a month after. I wonder if they did think they might get more money. This is one of those, like, you know, waiting till the very, very, very last second. And then having their hand forced. Rather than what I would have always thought it as, is that it was inevitable. And they should have been planning for it. I don't think it'll ever actually get the number 1.0. That's also what's kind of crazy about this. I always thought that their 1.0 would be the, you know, well, officially it's called that, you know? But that they're not even, they're like, they're going to run out of money and they're going to disband as a company before they actually reach 1.0. Unless they do just like pump out a bunch of mini updates. Yeah, this is crazy. I don't know, like, there's a lot of things that are going to be bad when it finally shut down, just because of all the other stuff, all the controversies like I'm talking about. But to do it this way is the weirdest way to do it. Very, very confused. I don't know. Like next week? I don't know about next week, but... I didn't read this comment. There's no excuse on missing features. Most people are already ignoring the excuse anyway, as they should. It was a monetized alpha that was pretending to be something else to impress investors at the cost of misinforming the community that generously gave millions to support the project. It's basically an altcoin RTS. Ow! Ew! That was poison-covered dagger right in the stomach. I haven't heard this song in a long time. Never be easier to be 100%. Yeah, I was top 101 RTS. Where's the comment, though, from the actual guy? Okay, I thought they had the link to Gerald's actual post, but I guess they didn't. Am I still on the Stormgate Discord? I am. Ooh, juicy. I guess they don't allow reactions, do they? Where's the #1 chill? Where's I forgot his name. Damn. It's okay, I probably shouldn't remember it. Spartak, you're right. Yep, that's who it is. Yep, that's who I was thinking of. Where are you at? Does anyone still play Tempest Rising from our community? Not really, but I don't think it was ever going to be a game that was competitive. And if it's not competitive, you play the campaign, you're done with it, right? Yeah, that guy's very interesting. Super Ray of devs apparently forced release before they want to. But it's been known for a while they would have this problem. I mean, honestly, Behemoth's a little overly defensive. But I feel like this is kind of the problem, is like a lot of people are good people. And as good people, they also anticipate goodness from other people. You know what I mean? No, I don't think it's because he thought this was going to be his cash cow. I really don't. I think Behemoth's a very good guy. But I think he is a very good guy. And I think he thinks a lot of other people are very good people. But at some point, I think you just got to call a spade, right? You know, like I keep saying, like I know these people who work there and I know a lot of them are good people. But I also know that there's a lot of people who I don't really know all that much. Who, through not malicious reasons, kind of fucked up the development of a game. And then maybe at times were kind of malicious, as in they did things that were definitely known to be sketchy. And I think that you could excuse that with stress and desperation, but it's still sketchy. You still call it bad. That's where I'm a bit different, I guess. It's like talking about someone you know and talking about someone you don't know, right? It's like I could talk a lot about how I don't like, I don't know, some actor. I don't know. Like I don't like I don't even know his name, but I don't like him that much. He's in everything now. He was in Twisters. He was in Hitman. And I could talk a lot about how I don't like him because I'll never know him, and he'll never know me, and he'll never hear me. And I could also just like imagine all like the, you know, reasons for him doing something, and I could hyper focus on him being a cheater and hating him because of that. But it's like if this was like your best friend, suddenly you're like, well, you know, you know, maybe, you know, his acting's, you know, really for me. But I think, you know, he's a good, you know, yeah, okay, you know, and he did cheat on his wife, you know, that did, okay, well, you know, life's complicated. You know what I mean? No, not Statham. This guy. He cheated on his girlfriend. He didn't get married. Glenn Powell. Initially I was like, okay, whatever, he's cool, I guess. And then the more that he came up, I just was like, no, I don't like him. There's like a great reason for it, honestly, but this is again the difference of how you talk about people you know and people you don't know. Everyone does it. Everyone. And if you don't do it, you're kind of annoying, honestly. You know what I mean? Like if you were to be like, Jennifer Lopez sucks, and your friend is just determined to never say a bad word about anything, like they really took the whole, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all, and they're like, I just don't prefer to really think about it that way, so you never get to like talk about anything negative with them. That also was kind of annoying, actually. But yeah, like I said, this is obviously going to be different between people you know and people you don't know. It's a bit like when Kalaris left for Heroes of the Storm. Kalaris didn't really leave for Heroes of the Storm, though. Yeah, Pal's listening to me right now, and he's like, wow, I thought we were close, ZombieGrub. Yeah, I don't think Kalaris really left for Heroes of the Storm. Kalaris has always been open. Here's why I believe this, because I don't really remember what happened, to be honest, that long ago. But Kalaris is like me, where we both have very strong opinions about how stupid it is to say that you're leaving something. Like, you will always keep your schedule open for anything that you did. People who are like going to be like, "Oh, are you leaving StarCraft? Can we get like an official statement?" That would like whose best interest is in that for? Like no one's, right? So I can believe that he started to prioritize Heroes of the Storm more, but that's not something that I think is bad, even if I wasn't his friend, because I wasn't his friend when he did it, and I didn't have any ill will toward him. That was also when Nathanis was coming up as more of a host, and Nathanis actually just ended up getting more invites than Kalaris did. There was a time where Kalaris actually was like, yeah, he just, like, people aren't asking me anymore. So. You only leave if you want to be dramatic. Let's be real. And hey, being dramatic can be fun sometimes. But it's because, you know that you will fizzle out and you won't be invited to anything anymore, sure. But you want that last little, like, oh man, I loved your work, you were great. Please don't leave. His channels. Kalaris was streamer? Man, I don't even remember that time period. That's Dimitri, actually. He loves it. He does it all by his lonesome. And it's a catfish. You might be right. That does sound kind of vaguely familiar, but he was never a very popular content creator. Oh, here it is. Oh, not that many comments on it. I know, right? It is so long ago. Well, GG Stormgate. GG's. You know, it wasn't the best game I ever played, wasn't the worst game I ever played, but my opponent didn't flame me at any point, and was very polite and said GG back to me, so, you know. If Stormgate's a ladder opponent, they were just fine. I'm sorry, I read the Discord again. One thing we can trust FGS is to be well-intentioned and authentic in their communication. I'm not sure I agree with that. They very much are obscuring the truth in a lot of things that they do. And I'm not really blaming them. I don't think it makes them evil, but I do think it makes them a company who tries to write with PR speak. They at least float their CC. Are they on the level of the person who says, "Yeah, I don't believe in cheese and I'll never cheese," and then can rushes you? I literally said I would Doom, but I've decided to have faith in the game and give it my time. Oh my god, Foxer's in the chat? Oh my god, he's being such a little shit. Oh my god. What a little shit. Jesus. Wow, the copium in the Discord is amazing. Wow. It's amazing. Why don't you create the right successor to StarCraft 2? I have not even the faintest idea of where to start. I don't know if that's a well-intentioned question or a gotcha question attempted. Well, if you could do such a great job, why don't you do it? But either way, I'd just be honest, I would have no idea where to even start. Favorite Final Fantasy game? 8. Oh, okay. Well, I really couldn't tell, so I had to ask. No, I mean, I think I'd obviously have my own opinions about how things work. The problem, as always, though, like, I feel like maybe this needs to be emphasized the most out of anything that has ever happened in the entire world. Is that I don't believe that there were nothing but bad ideas. I think there was a lot of bad management. I think there's, when a lot of things go poorly, I mean, sometimes it is because people are bad at stuff. Like, I was a bad artist. Should not have been an artist. That's just the honest truth. But I think what actually goes poorly in a lot of situations is that you build a company that doesn't have any feedback potential. You don't let people give negative feedback. You go into the room where everyone's going to pitch their ideas about what the story's going to be. And you're like, so, just to start things off, we want to make sure this is a positive environment. And I'd like you all to clap at the end of every presentation. And I want you all to give out the good points and not the negative points. And, that's how we're going to create a great ecosystem. I think that stuff happens. I think you go to a wall and you go to an outline and you're like, well, I really want to make this happen. And this, and that, and that, and that, and that. And you have a good idea too, and you have a good idea, and I'm just really receptive to all the good ideas. And we're looking to put everything on the board. You put everything on the board and you're like, well, that's beautiful. That's amazing. Look at this game we have. Where do we start? Anyone? Well, I think maybe we should get rid of that and that. No, those are all fantastic ideas by our lovely employees. Like, I think that happens in everything. And I think this does, I guess I'm leaning more towards this kind of discussion about, toxic positivity, I guess? Day9 tried to make a game because that's what he went to school for. And the company that he worked with took over creatively, so he left. And then he's trying to make one again, I believe. Why did anyone just give Putin a hug? Has anyone thought about non-violence? But yeah, I think that's a lot what goes wrong. Because I feel like, I mean, this is obviously biased. I'm bringing out emotions. I'm bringing out some deep-seated feelings right now. But I've definitely been the person who I felt said something that needed to be said, but maybe I didn't say it in the most polite way. But no one else would say it either. No one else was saying anything. So I had to be the one to say at least something. And then, you know, people don't like me because of it. Or I'm seen as like the not a troublemaker necessarily, but I'm seen as like incredibly, like I'm seen as negative, or I'm seen as incredibly critical. And I really hate that. So then who wants to do that? Who wants to be the person that's like, hey, maybe this was a bad idea to start with? You're unable to leave a bar face, but you can leave a thumbs up. Are you kidding me? Like, they actually... Do they have a setting where you can't put negative emotes? Are you... Is it real? Is that real? I want to try. I don't even know this is like a bad comment, but I'm going to try and put a negative... I'd go with barf. Oh. Wait, you can't even get it? Sad? Oh, I could put sad at least. I should have had a man restate my idea louder. I'm willing to believe that most of the negative feedback to my comments were based off of my tone rather than my sex, but it's always possible. Because to be fair, I think a couple of times that I've done it starting off exasperated because I'm exasperated at everyone else not talking. You know what I mean? Like, people like any comments, anything that like went wrong in the production today, and then we'll have like talked nonstop in the green room about how the producer talks way too much. You know, like they're just constantly in our ear and they're messing us up and it's not necessary. And then, you know, we'll be like, we'll definitely bring it up. We'll definitely, like, it'll happen. You know, like, yeah, like, you know, yeah, like, we'll bring it up. And then we get to the point where they're like, any feedback, anything we can work on. And then everyone's just like, it's great, good job, everyone. And I'm just like, okay, sorry, but you talked a little bit too much in our ears and we really don't need that. So I can see how that would, you know, that would make me seem like I'm just being mean. But usually it's not even because I'm like frustrated at the thing that happened. I'm frustrated at people not doing something about it. I got the Hersey not seeing the shit aura. Sometimes. I mean, I to be clear, I don't think I have. Like, it has happened probably 4 or 5 times in my... that I remember, anyway. In my experience as a StarCraft 2 commentator. Hearing that, like, someone didn't like the way, you know, I acted on camera or talked in the debriefs or whatever. But it's not very often, just to be clear. But I hate that so much. And then, like, I'll do this thing, too. I'll do this thing where I'm like, I'm not going to bring it up. I'm not going to bring it up. I'm not. No, I don't care anymore. It's not worth bringing up and being the bad person. No. I'm not going to. And then we get to the feedback session and everyone's like, it was great. It was wonderful. It's amazing. And I'm just like, there's like one thing. There's like, I just need a. And I'm always so disappointed in myself. I said I fucking wasn't going to do it. I don't think I've ever been reprimanded. I heard about it through the grapevine. Like a friend was like, yeah, production didn't like you. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, well. You guys remember TSL 9, was it? I don't see how it's like that, Rooted Gin, but maybe I just don't, I'm not getting it. You know, I say Rooted Gin. It's like I have to say the second D. I know, because it's part of the gin, but I never read it that way. I always see it as like some type of, you were past tense rude. Yeah, I've also gotten a number of people who are like, you're a straight shooter, you know, I like you because you tell it how, you know, how it is. I've also gotten that. So, yeah, it's always a double-edged sword, but... As they say, you can't please everyone. Someone's gonna see you on a not great day, and then that's the only impression they'll ever have of you, and that's just what you're gonna be known as to that person. And if you're woo or wee. His top 3 players for the EWC. It's Clem Serral Hero. Well, I think there's also, you could give feedback on feedback, couldn't you? I mean, I give feedback on feedback all the time. I do agree. Fear Dragon's usually the one being like, well, you know, big believer in like the compliment sandwich or whatever it is. Whereas I said, like, so often I say things because I'm just frustrated by no one else saying it. So instead of coming at the conversation like, well, hey, there's like one thing I was thinking of, I'm always just like, okay, there's this one thing. Jeff was probably the reason that StarCraft 2 was known to be troublesome to production for like 5 years. How about that for a behind-the-scenes story?
Warning.
You saw you on a great casting day. Oh, thank you. Captain Hair, with 5 the subs. Appreciate it.
Warning.
Yeah, apparently StarCraft had a reputation for being difficult to deal with for years. And I think it did stop, but I think we heard about this in 2020. Because we had this really lovely producer. I mean, there's a little bit of, you know, drama, as there always is in interhuman relationships. But she's wonderful. Very nice woman. But I think, like, after a couple of days or maybe even weeks, this is 2020, so we were doing, like, so much stuff, right? I think she was like, you know, people actually warned me about doing StarCraft. And we were like, what, really? And she was like, yeah, but I don't see what they were talking about. And, like, this was something that I like, pieced together. And I'm pretty sure it's a lot. There's 2 possibilities. One, there's, The way that production companies have treated talent has changed because of certain talent. But aside from that, I think it's Jeff, because Jeff was very... Again, I'll tell this story. I think I've told this before, so some of you might remember it. But this is quintessential In Control, right? In Control can come off like an asshole. In fact, he often does. And like, if you tell him, he'll like think about it and he'll be like, "You're right, I did," and he'd apologize, right? But the problem was that like very often, like on a stream, for instance, he'd like yell at someone who didn't mean what he thought they meant, and they'd be banned, and it'd be like, "That's the end of that." But the perfect example of Jeff being Jeff and getting someone in production really upset happened in Burbank when we were all commentating the like winter finals or something like that. Me, Nate, Fear, and In Control. And I was getting my makeup done. Nathanius was going to go on the show, but we were talking. It was like 5 minutes before the show. And In Control and Fear Dragon were casting. And apparently, like, this is like rehearsal, right? So they come out of rehearsal and they're walking back to the green room, which this place was so small. Like, it was literally 20 seconds to walk between the stage and the green room. But he's like walking back, and one of the, I guess, stagehands, seemed like a nice enough guy. He went up to them, and he was like, "Oh, hey, are you the talent? Like, I'm blank, and I just, got started on StarCraft 2. I used to work on Hearthstone, so, like, are you talent? Which one are you?" And Jeff just, like, looked up from his phone and went, "No," and then walked away. And then, of course, like 5 minutes later, the guy learns that was one of the talent, and Jeff was just fucking with him. But this was his first impression. So apparently that really ticked him off. And shortly after that happened, like I said, I was getting my makeup done, and Nate was talking with me. The same stagehand comes over at like a 4-minute mark. That we have a screen and a timer so we can see when we have to walk up. And he's like, "Hey, we need you guys, Nathanius. We need you on stage." And Nathanius was like, "Yeah, in a second. I'm ZombieGrub's finishing her story." And he was like, "No, we need you now." And he was like, "Okay, there's 3 minutes left. I will be there on time. She is about to finish her story." And the guy just like huffed and went away. And then Nate was there with plenty of time. Fucking hated that too, apparently. So this guy apparently quit the same day that he joined because the StarCraft 2 talent were such assholes. So that was always a fun story. And it's always what I think of when I think of StarCraft having a negative reputation for a while. The other guy who worked with us, who we worked more often with, was a really great guy, though. And he actually was the one that told us that he quit. And he didn't think we were bad. He thought he was awesome, and he thought we were cool. So, in our defense. Also, that same guy, the stagehand who got really angry, when he walked into the green room to introduce himself to us, and I was getting my makeup done, he did absolutely assume that I was not talent and went to go shake the hands of the men and ignored Rosa and I. So, I hold that against him. If it wasn't for him being such a big baby about the other things, I would have been like, he's, it's a mistake. It's okay. But he was a big baby, so I think he has a little subconscious sexism to him. I mean, these are guys that, they work on like, a bunch of different shows, and they're moved around and stuff. So I don't think asking, are you the talent is bad at all. A terrible first impression with him too. Bridge, you on stream for 3 minutes because of misunderstanding. Yeah. His entire rant back and asked me to explain. Yeah. No, that's that. Exactly. He did that to so many people. I do that to people. And I kind of feel like a dick sometimes, especially if they end up leaving, or being banned or whatever. Can you imagine the Dota 2 casters are what, towels in comparison? Well, I think, I don't know where this reputation really stemmed from. This is a guess. I never got anyone directly saying it was this or this or that. But I think you also did have StarCraft 2 commentators reach a height far faster than any other esport. That is actually correct. You cannot argue against that. It still wasn't as great as one would expect for being, the most dominant people in the most dominant game of that time. But that aside, at some point, Tasis and Artosis expected to actually get like a hotel room separately or something, And when they asked that, the initial response would be, okay, you're too good to share a room. Oh, this fucking talent, honestly. First they asked for $500 for 4 days of work. Then they asked for separate hotel rooms. Oh my God. And I think that probably influenced it to a certain degree. But then I think, the other esports obviously caught up. But there is definitely some bad talent in other esports too. But I just don't know exactly where the StarCraft is bad reputation came from. There was also a period of time that the new generation of commentators weren't involved in. This was just before we got involved, so it was like 2016. So it was like 2013 to 2016, 2014, whatever. Like around that year zone. That production was often bad. Like, does that mean? But it was. Stream hiccups, tons of mistakes made. And one of the biggest things that apparently the talent were constantly fighting production with was rehearsal times. Because production would ask talent to be at rehearsal for like 10 hours. And the most that talent would ever do... yes, Captain here. The most that talent would ever do in these 10-hour rehearsals is like get up on the stage every once in a while, put the headset on, and test. So obviously I'm biased, but considering that nowadays production treats rehearsal like one would expect if our only job is to go up on stage and be like, check, okay. Our rehearsals literally last like half an hour, if that. They always like book it for like 2 or 3 hours or something like that. But it's like every production we've been to, it's just been like, yeah, you guys got it. Okay, bye. But almost 10 years ago, Jesus, there is like a real, like, apparently like argument where they're like, we have to be here 10 hours on rehearsal. So you too, like, you should suck it up. Like, this is fair to everyone. And it's like, but we really don't do anything. We just wait. And apparently that caused a lot of drama. And then it was fixed by the time that I got invited to stuff. Yeah, sharing rooms was like a total normal thing to do up until 2016, 2015, I think. Because I remember sharing hotel rooms with they were insistent on keeping like the genders separated, which is fair enough. So who was I sharing a room with? Like for the summits that we were invited to? By the time I was invited to official casts, I wasn't sharing a room. But at the summits for a while, we were sharing rooms. I would have said Sasha, but I don't think we actually did. I don't know who was. Was there a girl? Baby? I don't remember. Well, obviously, like, rehearsal for production is them actually, like, testing every little part of the show. And I could see how that takes a long time. Absolutely. And I would love to be more helpful. If they actually found a use, and then they really actually needed us, but they, you know, I don't know. And as I said, it's like, it's not that way anymore. All production people are very cool and very good and whatever. Could that be from production being used to professional talking heads? No, because there probably was a point where a production company that like worked on like CNN or something, right? Worked a StarCraft event, but I don't know of any. I think a lot of production companies came up the same way that the talking heads did, where they were underpaid and overworked. They arguably still are. And they were all learning on the go as well. But now, maybe as I'm trying to point out, like there's no friction anymore. Not that I know of. There's a lot of time periods. StarCraft has been around for a very long time. Isn't that crazy? Well, now we got a couple of stories out of the way. I can't think of any more right now. Should probably cast something. We were just chatting for a while about good old days StarCraft. There's a StarCraft 2 shooter on the way. Nature heals everything. Still reading the cope in the Discord, too. It's like chips. It's like potato chips. You can't just have one. I feel like I got into StarCraft 2 late. Because I wasn't part of the Brood War people. Oh, we were actually doing something besides casting, and I got totally distracted. Nice. I was trying to think of more storylines, and then I just went all nostalgia mode. Oh, we talked about Stormgate. Which that is, yeah, that's done. The storylines of Starry Times. Kind of made sense. EWC. Yeah, so it's and subnote, the most broken Bjorn is going to EWC, but he's in the play-in, so he's like very close to already being out. To have something to say on air about the game, yeah, you know. But yeah, storylines are for EWC. I don't know if you meant anything else. How many of the currently active casters? Oh yeah, no, you're right. Now it's not. And it still feels like I missed such a big chunk of time, though, not being a part of the beta, not being a part of the, like the launch, you know, because that was such like a magical time of my life. Magical.
Received.
It just feels like it lasted so long,
Captain.
even though I got into StarCraft 2 and playing it probably in like November of 2010. And I started being known as a commentator, I guess, to like the very like diehard community stream watchers in like 2011. It still feels like to me it was such a long period of time. But you know, Tastosis are the only ones who are in a brood war at this moment. If Incontrol's around, I think he'd still be being invited. And then who else was in? Well, Day 9, they like naturally moved on to things. Like Day 9 still really likes watching StarCraft though. Kiwi, thank you for the 28 months. Only get first StarCraft 2 player sponsored by an online casino. I don't know. That's true. That's a good point, Mike. But I think that was very similar last year. Now, last year would have taken the year of 23 to 24 into account. And maybe there was more participation from them, let's say, like post-23 Katowice, pre-EWC 24. But as far as I can think, and time is a real concept, isn't it? I feel like Zergs have been lacking in online cups and even like regional tournaments for 2 years, if not more. And y'all can feel free to correct me. So yeah, I mean, I think it's still a good point, but it's still kind of shocking how much more this map pool favors Terran. And the last one was considered quite good for them. All right, so what other big storylines we got to think of here? You know, Estrella's bringing out Estrella, new PVT, super patient late game, more frequent inclusion of storms. What implication is the map pool have for those who play random race? None, because people who play random race are not professionals, and the map pool does not matter. Clem's insistence on playing Protoss versus Terran. Maru's declining results / health. You know, I was going to be like, maybe it's our first Protoss world champion, but of course that's not true. And then I was like, yeah, it's not true because Protoss have actually been the most represented in world championships. Forced random might make it a more fun game, though. I think people would emphasize being aggressive cheeses all-ins if they were forced to play random. What are the storylines? What are the interesting things are coming into EWC? I'm gonna BRB. It's too bad I can't put K-pop on stream. Then I really feel like it's the old days. I could make it so that it's not saved to the Twitch VOD, but I can't do the same thing for YouTube stream. And I'm YouTube streaming all the time now, so. Speaking of which, do you think Mario has a chance to make it to the round of 4 right now? I don't think so. I actually think Mario's going to lose in groups. Wait. In a round of 8, excuse me. You know if percent win ratios even actually matter in a tournament setting for specific matches? I mean, I don't know if there's been any statistics on it. I almost never bring up actual like numbers when it comes to people's win rate matchups. It's far more general, where it's like, you know, if they have a 5% plus win record in a matchup, then I'm like, well, they've been doing pretty well versus Terran lately. Yeah, I feel like there should be a way for me to only route the K-pop in to Twitch. But I haven't figured out how. So yeah, there's got to be a way to do it. I'm sure there is. I just, like, how much work do I really want to put into it? I think him losing in round of 8 is brutal. I don't think it's that brutal. Winning J-Mac Dallas is cool. But he did also not perform particularly well in GSL. And these are arguably the easiest GSLs. He also only made it to the round of 8-ish in EWC. Because the format's different. Wait, why do they have him? Right, because he was in the knockout bracket. I knew it was a weird format. So yeah, I don't think that's brutal or shocking at all, actually, to say that I think he's only going to make the round of 8. I think it's shocking only to people who kind of give Maru a Maru pass. Well, he's Maru. Maru. It is in Saudi Arabia, yes. And then my other guesses for who makes it to the round of 4 made it last year. Except Darko doesn't play anymore, and the other person I guessed to make it round of 4? I don't think I did, actually. But maybe Classic, I guess. Yeah, I think Maru is playing worse lately. But obviously I could be wrong. He kind of had a little dip here. Go away. He kind of comes back and he dips. I was hoping there's a way to zoom. There is not a way to zoom. What are the stories? Someone must have been annotating. These aren't even good stories. What are you talking about? What stories? Anyway. I think I said I didn't give a round of 4 prediction. I gave 3 people though who are favorites, and I said Cyril, Clem, Hero. And then I was like, I guess if I had to guess a 4th, Classic or Rainer? But I would put Rainer and Mario at the same chances of making the round of 4, actually, which is that I don't actually favor them. Which really lines up with the last EWC, by the way. So I feel like I've got enough logic on my side. Yeah, but it's a blessing and a curse, isn't it, Captain Hare? Because in the same way that people can be like, no, you do suck. Look at the stats. If someone's like, you suck, and you actually have good stats, you can be like, look at the stats. Unlike, something, a soft skill, like commentating, which is like, you suck, and you're like, well, I can't prove otherwise. It would be a Rogue thing if Rogue won it. I don't think he's one of the least likely to advance, which is what a Ligulac kept saying. What does a Ligulac know? And then the GOAT discussions would that'd be fuel on the fire, man. We thought we were done. It's finally off like the front page of Team Liquid. And then Rogue wins EWC. And Artosis casts the finals where it happens. Oh my god. Content for the next 3 months at least. No, there's no open qualifiers. No way for SOS to get in there. I know. Very sad. I can't think of too many other runs, actually. But I'm sure we'll talk about it when we get there. Me and the other commentators. Classic's been dependable enough lately, hasn't he? I won't be hurt again. I'll reject Classic before Classic rejects me. Always a solid strategy. I think I'll look at the KSL replay pack now, because the RSL replay pack has yet to be released. None of the replays I have are like the immediate matchups, but they could happen. That probably won't be the case. That probably won't be the case. That seems like it's one-sided. No good replays. Only the most recent stuff is RSL, and they didn't release it yet. The games that match up with the groups, yeah. A topology joke. You don't hear too many of those. Are there any replay packs I'm missing? Gosh, VODs. It's the most one-sided matchup. Hero versus Lancer. I mean, Lancer is Cyan, and that's actually not... I mean, that's kind of scary because it's a best of 3 PvP. There's a chance. But it's supposed to be the most one-sided matchup. Even Maru Trigger apparently isn't as one-sided. And then if Maru Shin happens, which I think it will, that is the most one-sided matchup. Like, ever. It's crazy. Even Ilikilak gave Trigger a game. Ooh. Maybe it's better if I use a Ilikilak to go searching for it. Oh, you're still doing the topology joke. Good one. Good one. You love cat? Here's cat. Dimitri. Dimitri. That's cat. The cat. Bath time. Is it from Dark Souls? No. It's a Tonberry from Final Fantasy. He's gonna stick him. It's gonna deal 9,999 damage. You're welcome. No, I'm trying to look for more replays. No. Just the Pigasaur has been happening. Okay, well maybe we'll cast this actually. I found something. Bjorn versus Estrella. Oh. Well. I kind of see what's going on with Estrella more. The best of 3 TVP from the Pigasaur number 38, I believe. Maybe then 39, actually. But either way, we got ourselves a new TVP to check out. In the bottom right, we do have Bjorn. And in the top right, we do have Estrella. So, I'm interested in this one because both players will be at EWC. Both players will also be in the play-in bracket. So they will possibly be facing each other. In fact, they are facing each other. Yes, that is literally the first series, probably, of EWC. So, the other side of the play-in bracket is Lambo versus Here Marine. The Germans on one side, and then, well, they're not Germans on the other side, I guess. 2 people make it through the play-ins. I do believe Bjorn will, but Estrella could be surprising. Historically, statistically, Estrella is not favored in this particular matchup versus Bjorn, but he's been doing better and better in the matchup, and Terrans have been growing, I suppose, more and more frustrated in the matchup. So, you know, there's actually a pretty good chance, but it would statistically be an upset. So this is nice to see this actually play out relatively soon to EWC. I think this was played out either again a week ago or 2 weeks ago. So, you know, soon enough. Same map pool, same patch. Already after, I think Estrella has revealed a little bit of his intentions with PvT as well. He showcased that super late, super patient PvT against 2 Terrans, of which I've already forgotten who they were, but that was interesting. I don't know how often we'll see him do that, but basically just the idea that Estrella was so comfortable going into a super, super late game was interesting. Like, he could have played it a lot of what other Protoss do. They try and attack and break open the Terran if they do go to 4 bases by run-bys and attacks on the front. But Estrella chose not to a couple of times. Instead, just opting to go for a super, super macro game. 8 bases, triple Stargate, Tempest. It was interesting. Arguably some missed opportunities if you really believe in the powers of Protoss. But then another way to look at it is just as another way to frustrate the Terran. Probe's trying to hide away from the Reaper. Bjorn was too clever. Does find it and take care of it. Bjorn's factory expand underway. His command center goes on location, not too scared here. Just see the Stalker come out first. I mean, we do have the Twilight Council being perhaps even more popular, and it was already the most popular thing to do. And the Stalker Sentry is a good way to, or Stalker Sentry actually in this case. But the point is, Stalkers with a Sentry give it a lot of safety. And you don't need to scout at the Adepts like you usually would, because really as long as you know that they're not literally one-basing you, like 1-1-1 or Proxy 2-Rack or something, the Sentry will get you the information that you really need. Double Reaper is done. 2 probes with the damage, plus the 1 to begin with. Henlian comes in and wants that 3rd one. Not going to be able to find it, though. Yeah, nicely done by Estrella, making sure that 3rd probe does not go down. So that's a solid defense from Estrella. Beyond is following this up with the Medivac, and a Cyclone is on the way. And this is just not a very big surprise, but Estrella scouts it truly, entirely. There's really no mistaking what this is. Generally, you're going to see from this combination of structures, Cyclone and Medivac. Technically, it could be a Siege Tank and a Liberator, but that's not likely. And the Widowmine would need a Tech Lab, and a Raven would need a Tech Lab. So there you go. So there's really only so many things you can expect. The Hallucinated Phoenix is going to continue coming in and get that confirmation on the units. It would also be really nice if it saw where the units were going. That more so than anything else. Is the Medivac carrying the Marines and the Cyclone, or is the Cyclone moving over to the left side? And whatever other change-ups there could be amongst these, amongst this opener with these units. It seems pretty well set up, though. Estrella knowing he's a shield bag to the natural means he doesn't have to put too many units over there, and units are going to be your rarest resource kind of right now is the Protoss, as you are getting your production set up and your technology set up. But this is already a good defense. We're not going to be able to find any damage whatsoever. We are on the map Torches, and that's going to be a potential aggressive map for the Terran, as then throw your tanks across the map. But I'm not sure if Bjorn's been doing a lot of that. Bjorn's kind of an interesting player for TVP purposes, because while some other Korean Terrans, for instance, are going into either SCV pools or into a lot of emphasis on the early game, those tank pushes or running across the map with basically whatever we got sub 5 minutes, Bjorn doesn't do that. And then he also seems more comfortable actually going into the mid to late game, getting to 4 bases, which is interesting because, well, not a lot of the Terrans are interested in doing that. I mean, they're kind of forced to at a certain point if they're not finding any damage to just say, okay, yeah, I can't do anything, and SCV pool will be way too late at this point. Yeah, I'll grab a 4th base and I'll defend it. But it's pretty kind of difficult to get into a decent position with that. But Bjorn seems like he still wants to try it out. And Bjorn's TVP ends up still being a pretty good matchup for him, so it's not exactly wrong. But I will say that maybe changing it up for EWC will be in order, especially if he does get into the extended series, which unfortunately, being in the play-ins, these guys would playing best of 3s for their life very, very quickly. So Raven apparently can hide behind the statue. Raven was created after the Medivac. We got Storm on the way, so Estrella, he was doing the very, very late game, which he might do again here. But the other thing that he was really showcasing was a lot of High Templar usage. Now, this isn't exactly new. Like, there have been a lot of Protoss experimenting with more fast High Templar builds, but it feels like it's ramping up as the meta continues to develop. And we also, I think, see a lot of Estrella's cleverness with this style of play as well. always having that High Templar in a difficult location to take out or to scout, and then always getting a good storm. His usage of charge lots is also very good, and it can prove to be a very frustrating style of play to go up against. Cyclone, is that actually off on the Cyclone? Oh my god. Okay, that Cyclone was amazing. 6 probes do go down. The Raven's in the main base now, and not done an auto turret, but it looks of things now does so, and that's going to be a handful of probes extra killed as they do target fire as well. Guardian Shield might have helped 1 or 2 probes survive, but 10 probes in total were killed while Estrella, he was simply distracted watching the front. And that worked out brilliantly for Bjorn, who, if there was an opportunity, if there was literally no army waiting for him, might have continued the push. But maybe wasn't expecting all that much from it. But he was hoping that anything else would go according to plan. A little bit probes here, probes there. Maybe positioning was found. I think that went very well for Bjorn. He's getting an on-location 3rd CC. Not yet worried for all those run-bys. Estrella did go into the storm, which if Bjorn did not know, he does now. And the Stalkers are not in position. Only 2 of them in the main base anyway. Estrella in a little bit of trouble once again. Forced to recall as his army. Okay. Was entirely out of position. It was indeed. Bjorn just smacked Estrella hardcore. With, it's a very simple play. Like this, I don't think anything shocked us. But when you consider how many different ways it could have gone, the medevac again could have gone to the natural into the main first. The double medevac drop could have been a direct push over to the 3rd base. The Cyclone obviously, could have been a part of the army as opposed to getting 10 probe kills. But that was that felt like a warm up there for Estrella. Honestly, I don't think he'll be losing the next game in that fashion, but we'll find out. All right, game 2. The best of 3 continues. Now in the bottom left, up 1, he is Bjorn. And in the top right, having a not great game, it is Estrella. I should double check something. Well, we'll find out, I guess, soon enough. This was played in a Pigasaur Open Cup, and I did not check at what place this was played. So while they set up, I guess I could quickly try and do that. Ah, I was wrong. Okay, then. This is actually a best of 5. This is the finals. Bjorn starting the finals off strong with the first game victory in almost flawless fashion. He did lose a couple of units, so it's not literally flawless, but it is nonetheless as close as you would get usually, I think, to StarCraft 2, right? Like, you did lose the Reapers, you lost Cyclone, you lost... Was that actually it? That actually might have been it. The Hellion, I think the Raven survived? Oh, boy. Alright, well, yeah, as I said, probably as close as you're going to get to a flawless game in StarCraft 2 against similar caliber of player, which Estrella generally is. This is not something that Bjorn usually dominates. He does have a winning record against the American Protoss, but not like 20-0. So that's a very odd game. And obviously this is the finals, so they have been warming up. I think this isn't the first game Estrella's played today, but it is maybe the first game he played versus Bjorn. I believe they are all single elimination tournaments, and then that kind of just... You could have been playing a lot of Zergs or Protoss before then and kind of have to remind yourself, like, oh, shit, okay, it's Terran, all right, listen, this. And then you also got to remind yourself about how Bjorn plays specifically. There is also, perhaps, an element to not showing all of your best builds, but keep in mind that this would have been played prior to the bracket being announced, which happened today. You would have known, like, both these players would know that they're in the same group, if you will, because they're both in play-ins, along with Lambo and Hero Marine. So you could say that they might hide builds from each other or particular ways of playing, not setting too much of a pattern if they meet each other in online series. But you could also say that doesn't really matter. And I think that's actually fair as well. They're hardcore studying and hardcore race-based matchup build order creation. Probably not going to happen until a little later on. This may have been played last week, as I said. It had to have been because, yeah, it happened literally tonight. Yeah, so last week, and then they only just realized they were going to be facing each other first and foremost today. Anyway, in general practice, certainly, and in general practice, I would say Estrella does defend all of that killed him in the last game way better, so it might sound like an Estrella apology or something like that, but it's just, it is the truth. Perhaps Beyond can capitalize on the momentum, though. I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it, certainly. And he once again goes for the factory expand to Reaper, Henlian into the Cyclone and Medevac. This time around, though, a little bit different about how he positioned the units. The Reapers do not go up to the main base, but see an opening in the Naturals. The Stalkers predict a little more of the defense happening in the main. So they come down now, but only after 4 probes have been killed. Last Reaper, not going to be able to find anything else by the looks of things. And 5 probes is still a good amount. Wait, what? Was that not 4 until I just... Oh, he did get a 5th. Okay, yeah. So 5 probes. 5 probes is still pretty good for 2 Reapers and a Hellion. 3... Well, it was actually 2 last game. The 3rd one was from the initial Reaper attack. But, yeah, 3 in total was actually, I'd say, what a Terran player expects and kind of desires from that opener. Obviously, if you get 10, that's fantastic. But realistically, 3 is going to happen. So to get 5 is great. And Estrella is obviously reeling from a loss that was quite one-sided. And to have the next game start like that, well, it's quite disappointing. Quite disappointing. And Bianna, like I said, he's going to stick with it. It's not broke, don't fix it. But he's going to change up how he uses it. And this is why, it can seem like the same thing to us with the God Vision. But when you are on limited units with limited map vision on the Protoss side, these typical openers, they're not particularly surprising in in what they have and the actual units that they bring forth. But they can be surprising in how they position themselves. And this is a case in point. The Cyclone brought along with the Medevac, finds a Stalker that was searching for it. Now Beyond does choose to stay as opposed to immediately getting out, which is going to lose some of the entire drop. Maybe that wasn't so worth it. Does get that last probe at the last second. 4 probes go down, though. Like that in isolation was not good for Beyond. But I think you look at the beginning already working out for him, and you look at the way that it's kind of just hoping to compound. It's hoping to keep Estrella on guard and a little off the tempo and whatnot. Then in that way, it can still be good. Raven trying to follow this up without Stalkers being in position. Only 1 means the auto turret's going to get slapped down. So we'll see how many more probes that is. Already killing 10 probes. I think that was sub 5 minutes. Is so good. Hey. This is all before the 3rd Nexus is done, obviously. So you're not going to have that potential risk take where you just chrono Nexus all the time to make up for that. You still have to be very concerned about catching up in economy, but then also keeping steady on like army creation and technology creation. There's not, if you were to take a risk, probably be building as many probes as possible. Can't even do it. 3rd Nexus is only just now finishing. Observer is going to get taken out for their blinding Estrella, which he knows with that scout basically what it is, but it's still one more thing he has to create out of the robo if he wants to have that permanent scouting. Once the Stalkers get pushed back, that's it. So it's still definitely important. Auto turrets, they're not going to the main base apparently. Decided to go over into that 3rd base. Kill a Stalker, no probes. 1 almost died, not quite though. And the Raven will park itself into a dead zone. So yeah, Estrella, I'm not going to say he already lost the game, but he has such a difficult time defending. We see a lot of Protoss defenses, though, in, I suppose, similar situations. But I'm thinking more like 5 probes lost sub 5 minutes or 10 probes lost sub 6 minutes, which is a drastic difference. Again, because that 3rd base would be finalized, and you'd be actually being able to produce 3 probes at a time or use the chronos or whatever you wanted to do. Estrella knows he's in trouble, too. Just to be clear, Estrella knows. I mean, there's only really one thing that he can do, which is stay the course and just try and play some spectacular defensive Protoss. Losing 3 more probes and having 2 more heavily injured right for the taking in the future is not exactly what you want when you have to be playing perfectly. Still not quite at that 8 worker lead for the Protoss either, as the double drop hits the natural. It's going to be full of Marines. The Colossus will be very important here, but the probes are starting to go down. Target fire a little bit at the end there. No anti-air to take out the medevacs means that Beyond, I think, just kind of made that choice to just stick around. Even at the cost of losing the Marines, if he doesn't lose the medevacs, it's really not that expensive. Second attack was coming in. That's where the medevacs were going. Beyond not waiting for the second set of medevacs, but just racing across the map with whatever he had, hoping to catch Estrella off guard, which I believe it did. Widowmine's popping off every which way. One Immortal still alive, thankfully, as it is mostly, if not all, Marauders. Widowmine skedaddling. And the Colossus has lived as well his entire time, but probes going down left, right, and center. 13, 14, 15 perhaps, as this one single Marine came in and equalized the worker counts. Beyond is only on 2 bases, though, which is certainly important to keep in mind, going up to 5 barracks first and foremost. So his economy isn't leaps and bounds ahead of his opponent, but it is ahead, with the mules being dropped anyway. It would be ahead. And so his third CC will go down location. That'll help make up for that timing. But he does have very consistent production already, thanks to going up to 5 barracks first. And clearly Estrella is reeling. He was able to save some important expensive units. The Colossus, the Immortal, even the Sentry. That's the good news for him. The bad news is, supplementing that army is going to be difficult. If he had not lost, in total, 24 probes in this game, again, 10 prior to 5-minute mark, he would already have, well, a second Forge. This Nexus actually might already be done. I'm not sure about that, but a third Colossus would be out, perhaps. And a lot more charge lots would be available. A lot more. This was just one warp-in by the looks of things. Getting demolished by the Widow Mines. So many Marauders available, and that Immortal can only do so much, especially as it is targeted down. Colossus also next to fall. And that's going to be that. Beyond. I mean, he's playing aggressive. He's playing aggressive. He's catching Estrella off guard. He's making all those little extra micro moments count. But I would say he does this to a lot of Protoss. And as much as I would love to just be like, Beyond, playing amazing, amazing, fantastic TVP, it does feel more like Estrella is not playing the best PvT that he can. So the best of 5 will continue, but now we could be on the last game. Top left, it is Beyond. Bottom right, it is Estrella. Estrella, he's losing way too much in the early game. That's for sure. The second game, that was ultimately what killed him. Losing that much in the early game would require immaculate defense, and that didn't happen. It's not impossible, but it did not happen. The first game, there was certainly a lot more recovery potential, like there wasn't as many probe kills, but he was still found so out of position that this really does feel like Estrella just woke up or something. Which I know he doesn't. Like, this is the finals of the tournament, so it's not that. But it feels like he's kind of... he needs to be slapped awake, and unfortunately the first game didn't do it. The second game, we'll see if it did it. We'll see if he plays better in the third game here. Because I don't think, you know... I don't think Beyond does these games, wins these games, and then puffs his chest out and is like, I am the best TVP player in the fucking world. Oh my god. Jesus. Like, he knows that this is not going to happen every single time, and he knows that he can play as intensely as he has been doing and still not find all that damage. Or still not be able to tie it up nice with a bow, right, and actually win the game immediately after. I think he knows that. It's just that when things go according to plan like this, it can feel like you're on top of the world. For this moment in time, at the very least, nothing you do is wrong. You've got the golden touch for 1 hour. And that can really do a lot to bolster your confidence. I mean, it's why momentum is so great, and why, you know, after games like this, just stopping the 3-0 is an incredible achievement. The player who's winning feels like nothing they can do will go wrong, which Doesn't mean that it won't go wrong, but it honestly, that confidence does actually impact the game. I mean, the player's been losing all the time, might just already have resigned their fate, right? Like, okay, that sucks, I'm going to lose. Estrella doesn't generally do that. Estrella can't even look at times stubborn, you know? And he has a lot of comeback PVTs under his belt. His career is full of them. But it is an online tournament, and there, again, could be something to be said about not minding playing reduced PVTs, we'll put it that way, versus the guy who might have been your opponent. Cheeky little pylon block right there for the reactor. And now we know, as of today, is actually his opponent. There's no way he avoids playing Beyond in the plans in EWC. Yeah. Like, if this is just like, okay, well, that was not the progress games. I definitely didn't intend to lose like that, or at all. Maybe it's not the worst thing, you know? Now I know what I will have difficulty with. Now I know what I have to think of first and foremost when I face Beyond, you know? We do have the double Reaper opening yet again with the Hellion. The Hellion in the natural currently killing some probes, but a shield battery is available. Force thought to be used in the main. Looks like 3 probes went down once again, which is similar to the first game, which is acceptable. Oh, it is 2 probes, because the one died scouting. That is true. Point basically stands, though, you know. Maybe it is actually slightly worse than the first game, because the first probe died, you know, so much earlier. And then 2 more died? No, that just compounded. So 4 in total throughout the game. It's okay. There's also some decent lost mining time. It's just that this is similar to the first game. And the first game went swimmingly for Beyond. It's going to follow this up once again with the Marine and Cyclone. It's not, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Not in just the way of, like, this is working for you, keep doing it because you want to win this game, you want to win this best of 5, but also because this is probably the best way to train. I mean, arguably, this would actually be something you'd really desire if you're facing people on ladder, getting the opportunity to face a Protoss every time and do the same build every time because you don't get 2-gated or cannon rush or something like that. And then, like, working on it throughout the stages of the game is actually great practice. What do I do if the Cyclone dies? Okay, I have an example of that. What if I do if I don't send the Cyclone this way? I have an example of that. What do I do if he went Blink instead of Charge, or vice versa, right? Okay, now I know what to do against that. But on the other hand, I mean, Estrella probably is not going to die to the same thing every single game. It's not always going to work out so brilliantly. This medevac drop is still looking to deal damage, and the Stalkers have gotten a little out of position. Blink is not yet done, so the medevac will be able to fully unload. Once again, they're not going to just pick up immediately. Doesn't want a medevac to be that vulnerable, so he kind of tangos for a little bit. 2 more probes go down. Medevac in some danger. You can, yeah, find a perfect position there. Behind this, we do have a change-up. Not the exact same build order. Banshees are on the way. Banshee number 1, hiding up to the top right. Estrella did scout the tech lab, but he didn't see it researching. That's big news, because we've had Ravens in the previous games. Banshee appears with the cloak as soon as that sentry sent the hallucination out, and he just got beat pretty one-sidedly, you know, 2 times in a row, and then surprise Banshees appear. If Estrella had just tapped out, I would not have been surprised. Beyond last second cloaks up a Banshee that was rallying forth. And this Banshee looks like it will finally run out of time, but then we also have the drop coming back in, kills the Stalker, looks for more probes. This Banshee finds the defenseless third base because the Observer is in the main, and it's very unlikely that they'd have 2 Observers at home. Medevac finally goes down, but Cyclone's going to add in more and more damage. Banshee uncloaked, even finding some extra probes, and it looks like maybe all this harassment will finally be cleaned up. But that is so much damage to take. My goodness. 15 probes killed, 2 Stalkers, a sentry. At the end of the day, I feel like that actually was going to go way worse. If I had opened up that unit's loss tab and I saw that it was 5 Stalkers and 20 probes, I would have been like, yeah, that seems like a real problem. So at the end of the day, this actually isn't too bad. There was also some lost mining time. I think Estrella maybe hasn't hotkeyed his 3rd Nexus, as we do not have triple probe production going on. Upgrades did not start probably as fast as they should have with the lost mining time, the lost probes, and just, again, maybe some straight-up distraction. This has done more than just what is on the resources tab, which actually favors Estrella at this point because gas is such a rare resource, but it's not about the numbers here. Third CC is on the way after the 4th and 5th, or actually I don't think it was. Yeah, so this is he's changing up the build quite a bit. Nonetheless, Bjorn has quite the army supply lead. His drop has been scouted. I want to say that might have seen the tail end of the pickup. I mean, it sees half of an army and no medevacs, and that's enough of a tell if nothing else is. At least that's what I would expect. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's what I would have expected. But that, maybe not something that Estrella picked up on. Forge is now targeted down. And while this might not do much more damage, Pylon depowering a gateway, this is still a huge distraction. Medevac's going to be able to escape. Estrella now out of position for the frontal attack. Does not grab one of the Medevacs, and he knows second attack is on the way. He was going to go out. He was going to meet that. So, of course, he knows it's on the way. A couple of Zealots trying to help out. 2 Colossus available, but apart from each other. Not ideal. This one Colossus targeted down, killed. And now the armies... I mean, Estrella's army is good enough to deal with one army. Certainly. But it's in 2 different locations. And that is what Estrella is really struggling against. Bjorn is ripping him apart. Expects to be able to go back into the 3rd base, and is wrong about that, but his main drop still dealt more damage. 30 probes killed, the Colossus down, the Forge down, heavily delayed on the upgrades, which he was already later to. Bjorn might have a 1-1 advantage next time they attack. There's about like a 20-second difference between the armors. And he also probably will just have too much army for the upgrades to even really being the determining factor. 3rd CC's down, location turning into an orbital, all the production's all well and good, so we can really focus on the frontal attack. Estrella, I think he actually wanted to get that 4th base maybe even faster, but only just now starting it. And no Colossus here makes this, with the upgraded disadvantage as well. Really a difficult defense. Shield battery was depowered, Widow Mines popping off, and the threat of the Medevacs in the main base keeping the rest of Estrella's army elsewhere. And the army of Estrella is starting to really collapse. Half the army supply of his opponent or less. There's those double upgrade advantages kicking in. And the drop in the main base, something that Estrella, I'm sure, was aware of, but just had to make the decision to move his army. Is going to find the cannon. It's going to find a handful of stalkers. Even as they grab the medevacs, those marauders will tear on through them. And that will be that. Bjorn with one of the fastest 3-0s I've seen in a couple of weeks. Not the most interesting TDP, was it? That was actually very one-sided. At most, Estrella gets to say, well, he didn't realize exactly, my plans for a macro game because he died too soon. And that's all I think really Estrella can walk away with that. Like, that was just not a very pretty game for him. Estrella can perform better, and I strongly believe will perform better. But that was a tough one. And Bjorn looks rock solid, doing what he usually does. So Bjorn didn't really reveal anything to Estrella either, so it's not that much half glass full there. But offline at EWC, maybe that'll change how this goes. Maybe they'll face again today. I don't know if there's going to be a tournament today. Because it'd be nice to see that be a little more back and forth. All right, Pegasus Mondays are changed to Tuesdays. How silly of me. So yeah, maybe they'll play tomorrow, and we can see what happens then. But that is it. Thanks for watching, guys. And that is it for the stream as well. Well, not the banger series I was hoping for. But it was a series. And hopefully we do get the RSL replays, because I think that's really where a lot of the most recent and high profile and interesting games have been happening. So they're supposed to release. I don't know if they will before I leave. Hopefully they will. Thanks for all the resubs today, guys. And I will see you all tomorrow for more StarCraft. Bye-bye.